All right. We will give about 60 seconds or so for folks to join in as I see the participant count going up. And for the recording, saying hello, we've got 4 beautiful faces on here. And so as people come in, just a little reminder that you can absolutely say hi in the chat and drop questions into the question panel. We'll have a Q&A session at the end. We'll get around to that. But for now, say hi, maybe even drop in where you're viewing this from. That would be great. And, while we're waiting for folks to come in, we'll do the normal British thing, as Touch Day is a British company. How's the weather? And Jeff, how's the weather where you're at?
Hi, this is Jeff in Hawaii. So I feel a little guilty with it still being probably a winter for some people. But it is as it always is. It's in mid high 80s and sunny. So sorry for that.
Oh, very nice. I mean, here, I'm in Missouri. We've got the mid 80s right now, but it is April. Whoa. That means we have tornado warnings. And I learned a new term yesterday called TORCON, which is tornado conditions. So we're under a TORCON 5 this afternoon. So tornado conditions, it very well could happen. And then my properties in Branson are under a TORCON 7. Woohoo, right? All right, Cheyenne, how's the weather where you're at?
Unusually cold. We're in southern Utah where the sun shines all the time and it's beautiful all the time, but Utah is experiencing historic winter as far as snowfall and everything. So even down in St. George, as I was driving to hop onto this, we are actually getting a few snowflakes, which is unheard of in April in St. George. So yeah, it's been an interesting couple of weeks for sure. But by the end of the weekend, it's supposed to be the mid 80s. So we're catching up to you, Jeff.
Awesome. And Rebecca, your 30-second weather report, and we'll get started after that.
Here in the Washington, D.C. area, we're actually going to hit 80 today. So hi, everyone. It's Rebecca. Normally when I check in from D.C., the weather is a lot like London, actually, but not today. Today it's sunny and about 80. Thanks.
Awesome. All right. So we're going to get started. Everybody, welcome to Touch Day's webinar. This is all about being an elite player in the short-term rental industry. And I am so happy to be here with these 3 amazing folks. And I'll be your moderator. I'm Tyann, the Queen of Guest Experience with Touch Day Digital Guides. I'm also a property manager myself with 2 boutique brands in Missouri. But these 3 elite players are going to give us their little tips and tricks and insider info so that we can all grow and learn. So first I want to introduce you to Jeff Seifert. He is with Paradise in Hawaii.
Hi, this is Jeff.
And then we've got Cheyenne Hayes, who's Red Rock Vacation Rentals in Utah.
Hey.
And we have Rebecca Lombardo, who is with the 100 Collection. And Rebecca, I believe you get to interview a lot of elite players and have lots of information from them.
Hi, it's Rebecca. Yes, I have the pleasure of introducing a lot of rock stars and interviewing them.
Wonderful. Okay, so we're going to get started right away, and we're going to set the scene. The first question is, and we're going to start with Rebecca, is how do we define elite in the vacation rental industry? So what is it that folks are doing? Why do guests love you? What drives your growth? So we'll go Rebecca, Jeff, Cheyenne.
Great question. So elite is what we think of when we think of the top of the top of the top. And when we think about the elite players, we think about people who make it look almost easy from the outside viewpoint, when in actuality, we know how hard and grueling and consistent and repetitious it can be to become an elite player. So when you go to achieve great things, it's really, a lot of work behind the scenes to make it look flawless on the outside. So what we've seen across a lot of folks within the 100 Collection is that they are, toiling while smiling and loving what they're doing. And they do it with such finesse and passion that it just comes across like they're already in the elite space.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right, Jeff.
Yeah, I think the definition of elite is done by our guests and owners. And when you think of any given vacation market, the tourists or the visitors, they know who the go-to people are. They're the ones that they don't say, I stayed in Airbnb in such and such location. They're saying, I stayed with this and had an amazing experience that they tell their friends. And to us, that's what defines elite. Similarly, on the homeowner side, if somebody's buying a home and they're going, who should I use to manage my property? When the realtors in the community say, you should use company XYZ, that's elite. And often realtors will refer, when you're really elite, will refer to the competition. So they may have a vacation rental brand, and yet they still refer to that company. So to get there, it really, I think the elite companies recognize that for guests, the time they take on vacation is really special. They have busy lives. They may be 911 dispatchers, teachers, doctors. They may get 2-3 weeks a year of vacation with their families, and they're trusting that time with you. And companies that realize that and have such a passion and treat that time as so special that they're dealing with, that shows through, and that helps define them as an elite.
I love that, especially that the passion shines through to the guest. But you said not guests, but the community as well. And as the realtors and the restaurant folks and the other homeowners, and they're all referring back to you and that passion. Awesome. Okay, Cheyenne.
Yeah, I love what both of them have said. Rebecca talking about grace under pressure. That's such a true statement. And Jeff speaking to just really valuing and not taking for granted the people that choose to do business with us, owners and guests. I couldn't agree with those two things more. I think the two things that stick out to me the most as far as becoming an elite player is consistency and adaptability. I think that we all strive to have really high standards for our owner relationships and the guest experience, but having that done consistently well, and so consistent that that shows through into your reviews, I think is just critical, especially in kind of a more competitive market that we're seeing. Evolving supply is up, demand is softening a little bit. The trust that Jeff was kind of speaking to towards, this is people's hard-earned income that they're choosing to spend with a company. And we want to take away any part of their purchasing experience that might give them a little bit of anxiety about, I'm spending a lot of money, what kind of experience am I going to get? So just consistently providing high-end service, great, well cared for properties, and owners that feel connected and informed, and doing that, just day after day after day, and to never take those relationships for granted, I think is huge. And I think the natural consequence of doing that is, higher owner retention, higher guest reviews, higher ADR, because you've earned that reputation with your branding. So yeah, I agree with what they've said, and consistency and adaptability as well. I think that we're seeing the market shift a little bit, even since I've joined the industry a couple of years ago. Things have shifted a lot. And I think what's really going to set people apart in 2023 are the companies that are ready to pivot, and they're ready to read the audience and the market and the demand and make adjustments internally to really respond to that, and not just continue doing what they've done because they've always done it. I think this year that's really going to set the difference between the companies that can kind of evolve and the ones that are going to possibly struggle a little bit more.
Wow. All excellent points. The consistency and adaptability, I think I totally agree. It's key. Which leads us into our second question that, you guys have given consistency, adaptability, recognizing the guest, that trusting you, the passion, the grace under pressure, the work that goes behind the referrals, the word of mouth referrals. There are barriers to delivering this. What are the barriers that you guys have come across that you've had to get through, or go under, or go around, or build some type of bridge and be creative and think out of the box to get past these different barriers? So the barrier and a solution that you can share with us. Don't jump all in once.
Any of us?
I can go ahead.
I can certainly.
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Just waiting for clear instructions. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely several barriers, which are, are they stumbling blocks or building blocks? Like, our company just chooses to see them as building blocks. Our director, Ryan Graves, he is absolutely great about always challenging the team of what systems are we using that need to possibly be reinvented? Because I think one of the barriers potentially to becoming an elite player or dealing with big growth is just the breakdown of systems and processes that aren't sustainable or scalable. And what a great problem to have. But being willing to kind of rethink everything, put everything back on the table and reconsider it. I think certainly like burnout is something that you have to be mindful of, and that the management needs to keep their finger on the pulse of. Here at Red Rock in Southern Utah, we just last year, we onboarded 120 new units to our portfolio in 1 year. And we were going hard, we were going passionate, but it was great to see that our owners, and again, Ryan as our director, really kept his finger on the pulse of how his team was doing. Just a couple of weeks ago, for example, we all were notified that the entire team, and I mean literally everybody down to, property inspectors rolling out trash cans, were given a free professional massage during the workday. Just little things like that to make sure that there isn't that burnout and that burnout doesn't become a barrier. And I think the last thing I would just say is that, it's easy to kind of become complacent. I think the market the last couple of years, reservations were kind of falling into our laps in a lot of regard, and revenue management was a lot easier than it likely will be here in this coming year. And there's a concept called slide edge mentality, that small little things can make a huge difference. But when they're small, they're often easy to do, but they're also easy not to do. It's easy for me to sign off on every Airbnb correspondence with our appropriate company branding and a personal message. It's also easy not to do. It's easy for me to send a postcard to somebody who just booked through an OTA so they get our branding to their mailbox. It's also easy not to do that. And it's just important to really understand that those little things sometimes are what can really make a huge difference, and to not get lazy, or just like Jeff said, not to take for granted the people that are choosing to do business with us each day.
Wow. Okay. What I got from that was the small things, because you're right. And that leads into the complacency of, well, it's just a little thing. I'm going to skip it this time, or I'm just going to put it off for another week, and then another week. And I totally relate to that. Jeff, what do you have?
Yeah, the burnout is a big thing that we really got as leaders to take care of our staff. So we definitely focus on taking care of our guests and our owners. And sometimes it's pretty easy to forget that we run businesses 365 days a year. They're pretty much, for our business, it's 18 hours a day because we have guests coming from around the world. So we not only have to deal with them when they're in house, but also when they're making their reservations. And you can't have staff work that long. So you can have a team. You've got to make sure that you can do handoffs and transitions, and the team can work together. So communications, keeping people motivated, keeping it so they can have their weekends. And the weekend might be Tuesday, Wednesday, but they get those consecutive days. They have their shifts, and we're not always calling on them to go above and beyond and work extra hours. So we've talked in the last year about how hard it is to find people. It's just as hard to make sure that we're doing the right things to keep them energized and motivated. Keeping people motivated, there's lots of great tools. Our property management systems, tools like Breezeway for tracking orders. There's lots of different operational tools. One of the key tools we use is Slack. And we have people in homes, in offices, working from home, keeping the entire team feeling like they're one team. So we kick off every day with what we call a scrum call, which is just everybody being on page for 10, 15 minutes on here's what's the big things happening. Here's the new owners. Here's the great things that happen. Here's some of the tough things, because tough things happen. Things break, mistakes get made. But how as a team do we pull together and adapt to that? And that's one of the things I learned from being in the corporate world is things will happen. And it's how does your team react, and how do they know they're not going to be chastised for something that they made a mistake on, and coming together. That is essential to keeping everyone moving and motivated.
I absolutely love that. The team working together, and especially, where me personally, where I'm in that space of we're a very small, 2 small brands run by 3 people, my husband and our son-in-law, and then our Nat's daughter, my bonus daughter, helps us out as well. And having that communications with the team, and we're learning, having those scrum calls. And my husband's in 25 years of IT tech world, and him bringing that project management experience into my little tiny company that's growing and exploding this year. So those of you who also are super small and scaling and growing, what Jeff said is extremely wise and extremely valuable. Thank you, Jeff. Rebecca, what do you have to add?
I guess I would rephrase the question to be like, what obstacles aren't there in your way? Because I think that would be a lot shorter discussion, maybe. I mean, you're facing tornadoes, you're facing burnout, you're facing, like, honestly, the odds are just, may they be ever in your favor. So I would say that from our perspective, marketing is increasingly a challenge with a lot of these brands. The OTAs have kind of changed the game. And so as we're looking at this millennial generation that I think 18% of them have taken 3 or more domestic flights in the last year, which doesn't sound like a lot, but for boomers, it was only 6%. So just staying top of mind with those folks and meeting them where they are, so that, a whole new generation can start to enjoy some of these brands. And the rules are always changing because, it's social media primarily as their first language. And that's an ever evolving, like Cheyenne said, it's constantly changing, You got to be agile. But that's definitely something that they're facing as well.
Great. Thank you. Okay. So my next question, my lovely, wonderful friends, what features and experiences are the best players? So it's either you or those you admire. What are the features and experiences that they are offering to their guests? Or is it in the way they're offering them that's enabling their success? So it could be something that has been offered for decades traditionally, but they're offering them in a different way that you would have normally not thought about. One of the things that we personally doing, and this has become now a 9-month project that I thought would take 2 to 3 months, is we're now offering e-bikes because some of our properties sit on the Katy Trail, which is the longest rails to trails in the country at 237 miles. So we have folks come from all over the world to ride this trail, and folks who come who don't have a bike. So we started a project to put a bike shed, which meant it needed a concrete pad. So it's like, well, we're pour concrete. We may as well pour concrete pads for hot tubs. And this is between 2 properties we have. So that means 2 hot tubs got to go in. And if we're going to do a hot tub, that means we need to fence the area for privacy. So we may as well just fence the entire backyard so that our dog-friendly properties can have a fenced yard. And then you get the e-bikes in, and it's like, oh, wait, now the yard got tore up. So now we need to lay new sod. But in the meantime, the hot water heater went out and the HVAC went out. So now let's get rid of the gas utilities and change to electric utilities, which means the propane tank has to be pulled out. And that hasn't happened yet. So we can't finish off the sod and the fencing. Okay. So all those barriers that happen and your costs go up. But I think one of the things, but what we're doing is we're offering that additional amenities, because now it's plural, in a way that no one else in our area is. And the way we're marketing that too is, through the listings, through our communications, in our drip email after they've booked as well, in our digital guidebook, and then at the properties too. So I think, so I get all of that. What I'm trying to say is knowing who your guest is and the amenities that work for the reason they're coming to the area and what they would want to do, and then making it easy for them to do that. And then you can upsell or just provide that within your nightly rate. So that's one idea. Cheyenne, what is it that you have seen that you guys are doing or someone else you admire that's doing?
Yeah, I mean, I love what you're talking about. And did you say that all took 9 months? That feels like it should have taken like 9 years.
Well, it's not finished yet because the tank has not been removed and we can't put the sod or put one side of the fence back up yet. So fingers crossed, it will be this week. We will see.
Oh my gosh, that's exciting. That's exciting. Yeah, I mean, we've done some similar stuff. We have a community called Desert Color here in St. George where, we make it super easy when people are booking their reservation. They can also just book a golf cart. The community is set up where it's really fun to just kind of drive around on a golf cart to get to the pool and such. And so we have that golf cart waiting for them when they arrive. So those kind of things I think are awesome. again, the director of our company, Ryan Graves, gave us the quote at the beginning of the year that said, do the common things uncommonly well. So I do think there's a lot of extra things that we do try to do, but we also really focus on the basics and just doing those things really, really well. We strive to say yes to the guests as much as we possibly can. And if we find that we are consistently having to say no to a request, then that tells us there's a demand there for whatever they're requesting, and we try to revisit, is there a way we could get to saying yes about that? We also try to we really focus on our response times. Whenever owners and guests are getting in touch with us, we try to get back to them as quickly as possible. So just being super, super available to them. I think that, it says 7 out of 10 people are willing to pay more for the same product or service if they just know it's going to come with good customer service. And so that is like the big thing that we push. I do think, one of the things that we do that I think has been helpful is we really nurture a lot of local business partners. So anything from booking like ATV rides or hot air balloon rides or a steak dinner, just anything like that, golf, theater tickets. We have a huge list of local partners that we've negotiated deals with to extend discounts to our guests. And if we do it to our guests, they have to also do it for our employees. So it's another little job perk. But after somebody makes a booking with us, 48 hours after they do so, we send them a direct email with all of the coupons and the promo codes that they're going to need to get in touch with our business partners. And some of those bookings happen through us or just through them directly. But we assume that maybe people aren't familiar with our area. And if people come and enjoy their overall experience and feel like, wow, St. George just hit a home run for us in every possible way, we want them to love their meals. We want them to love their extra activities when they're outside of the home. Because if collectively the experience is great, we feel like they're going to continue to come back to us so they can tap back into those local business partner discounts. So that would be one suggestion that I have that I think is helpful.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, Jeff.
Yeah, I think very similar to what you both said. People are not coming to a location to stay in a house. They're coming for experiences, whether it's experiencing a new culture, just learning something new about a place, trying some new restaurants, touring a volcano, which you can do in Hawaii, which is kind of something you wouldn't do in most other places. Those are all awesome. And there's lots of great activity providers that will provide wonderful activities at a fee. So one of the things we kind of realize that by the time, if there's airfare or AV driving, by the time they stay, by the time they pay for all the activities, they often get credit card sticker shock after the fact, right? And they will look back and go, wow, that was a once in a lifetime trip that maybe I won't be able to do again. So one of the things we've really focused on is finding a balance. So yeah, it might be amazing to take a helicopter tour or something like that, but what are a bunch of other free things you could do with your kids that will actually really matter? So we started putting out things like we're a beach destination, books on how to build the most amazing sandcastles and putting some shovels and different things as kits in a garage. And wonderful day at the beach, no dollars. So when they go back and look at their credit card bills, they haven't spent quite as much money. So that's kind of thing. We've also looked at a lot of visitors come when it's winter and they come to a warm destination and they may not have ridden bikes. So bikes are a huge thing, but going beyond the bikes and the e-bikes, we've actually equipped every home with a kid's bike that has training wheels and a wrench. And the idea is that kids can, where it's safe in the neighborhoods, learn how to ride a bike without the training wheels. And so lifelong memory of I taught my child how to lose the training wheels while on vacation. Again, I think the bike, the helmet, the wrench, they're probably about $75, really easy expense. You have to maintain them, make them safe. But again, it's the type of thing that didn't involve spending $1,000 on activity and something that makes the memory and remembers it's something we did that other people don't do.
Well, gosh, that is just amazing. I mean, and it's like I had mentioned earlier, your guest and you know what they want. And just the whole thing of doing the kids' bike with the training wheels and me as a mom and going into grandma life as well. It's like, oh my gosh, yes, that is something that definitely lifelong memories, once in a lifetime trip. And, like you said, the sticker shock of afterwards, that credit card, it helps, if you can ease that, maybe it's not a once in a lifetime trip, but it becomes hey, let's repeat this amazing trip again. And of course, we're going to go call Jeff because that's where the trip came from as well. Thank you so much. Rebecca, what have you seen as you do your 100 collection interviews?
Well, I would say what I have even just seen here today is that I love how well you guys know your guests. I mean, to know that you need a hot tub after biking 236 miles, like that's real stuff. That's real life right there. And I remember when we first started chatting with Jeff about the 100 collection, I was like, I think within the next 5 minutes of hanging up that phone call, I was Googling flights to Hawaii, because he painted this picture of showing up with your family and having like, what are the first thing kids especially want to do as soon as you get to the house? They do not want to be in the house, right? Like they want to be in the water if there's water around. And so Jeff having the goggles and the flippers like at the house, like as soon as the kids walk in, grab the flippers, run right back out the door. Like that just sounds like happiness, and I'm sold. And Red Rock, again, like knowing that golf cart is like walking around in the heat might not be the best, but like a little golf cart, man, you get that breeze in your hair. You can definitely get around that way. So I think that I would like to challenge everybody this year to rethink the definition of luxury. Everything you're talking about here today is about service. And I think stellar service is the new luxury. So that would definitely get you an elite status.
Okay, I'm writing that down. That is an amazing quote, Rebecca. Stellar service is the new luxury. Is that what you said?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. And that reminds me of a book that I think a lot of people have heard of it in the last couple of months. Unreasonable Hospitality by Will
Yes.
Idra, I think it is. And the part that stuck out to me the most when I was listening to his little mini TEDx talk is the fact that service is black and white. So, right these last few minutes, we've been talking a lot about service. But what these folks here I'm speaking with are bringing into it is the additional part of hospitality. And as Will says, service is black and white, but service is color. So it's not just service of doing things exceptionally well, it's doing it unreasonably well and bringing that color and making those memories.
Well, and one thing that I would say that totally speaks to that is understanding the difference between customer service and customer experience. Customer service is often reactive. It's please, thank you, have a nice day, thanks for choosing Red Rock, whatever. But the customer experience, that's where we proactively think, like Jeff has, about what do my people want, or maybe what do they not even realize that they're gonna want the minute they're here, and we are going to get ahead of that and provide it to them. And having our teams think more into how we can improve our customer experience and thinking proactively while also still giving great customer service, which is a little more reactionary, I think is super important. And again, is going to be really important as we move into a little bit more of a competitive market this next year.
That is excellent. And I think that also lends to our next question. And this is more on the homeowner side. So our homeowner clients, what's different about the service provided by the best players like you all and makes you attractive for owners looking for the elite marketing? So I'll repeat that again and we'll have Jeff go first. What's different about the service provided by the best players like you that makes you attractive for owners looking for elite marketing?
Thanks. We learned really early when we started our company that when we were talking to owners and we had our first few homes, how much a reflection of that home they see upon themselves. So how personally they take if there's a bad review on their home, how much passion they want to take in making sure the home is equipped well, decorated well, for the homes that we work with, the owners that we work with. From that experience, we realized that reviews are absolutely everything, to the point where we now manage actively the review process. We work with TouchStay to create first impressions and give some feedback, which is a fantastic feature. And then when we get great first impressions, we feed those out through the Slack channel to all our employees to drive that culture, to bonus, through just repetitive daily positive reinforcements. And when we hear from new homeowners, we're hearing your guys' reviews rock. It's great. You have great photography and you got videos and you got all the technology and you're on all the different OTA sites and things like that. But it's clear you take care of homes, because if those guests are happy and they're not complaining about cleanliness and they're not complaining about lack of amenities and things, you're doing well with those guests. Therefore, you're taking care of my home. And so it's both taking care of their investment, which is usually a second home, and taking care of their guests, which are our guests together. It's really, really important. So that, in terms of actively ranking, watching the various different tools that are out there so we can get the scores and comparing ourselves against our peers, and then driving that higher and higher. If you do good things, you'll get great results and owners will come to you.
That's an excellent point, because the homeowners don't necessarily see what goes on behind the scenes, but when you've got that proof and that word of mouth referral from the guest who stayed, and then you're able to send it to your homeowners, that's a little extra shot of adrenaline to them as well. They're like, yeah, my home is great for them too. It's made the memories for them as well. That their family's building those bonds and those memories and solidifying their family. That's a good feeling all around, isn't it? All right, Cheyenne, what about you?
Yeah, I think as far as owners feeling confidence in the company, basic things like, dynamic pricing and a good channel distribution strategy and SEO, agree, all of that is super important. But I would echo what Jeff says. There's no better marketing you can do than solid operations. Like, that has got to be first and foremost. Otherwise, you've wasted your marketing effort to get somebody to the location that it doesn't go well. So operations. And then, yeah, just as you said, like, a lot of our owners don't necessarily know all the things that we're doing behind the scenes, all the little marketing efforts, or just the extra things that we do, because obviously the reason why they're hiring a property manager is so they don't have to worry about those things. But if we want our owners to really see the value in what we're doing, I think it's important to be pretty transparent about that stuff. And so, Red Rock put together a year-end report this year that, it was a big document, probably about 8 pages or so. And it just really took the chance to let them know, hey, these are all the things that we're doing. And it included some of those guest reviews, and it included some stats, and made them aware of, how much budget we're putting towards different things that is helping their property. And so that transparency, I think, is super important. I also think all of these relationships come back to trust again. And the same thing is with our owners. And if we're not proactively reaching out to them to share with them what's going on, or what the guests are saying, or maybe suggestions we have for their property, if they see that the company is calling them and they're like bracing for impact, assuming something's wrong, then we're probably not talking to our owners enough to share with them like all the positive and all the good. We've all had the owners that show up to the property and they notice like one thing that hasn't been addressed yet, but you look up their account and like, we've done 17 things since they've been there, but since we took care of it, they don't see it. So how can we be a little bit more transparent? Because this is a huge investment for them, and they're in a pretty vulnerable position handing over that kind of investment to our company. And we don't take that, lightly. And so being transparent, but also doing the basics and then letting them know that we're doing the basics, and taking care of them, I think is super important.
So what are some of the I would say, elite marketing tactics that you all are doing? Because anyone can go in and list a property on one of the OTAs, and anybody next step could build their own website. Anybody can throw up a social media page. So what actual different marketing tactics are you guys doing? So like some of the things that I personally do for us is we will actually do print advertising. We will go and get an ad in our local Chamber of Commerce magazines, because that is one of the ways our target guest looks for a vacation rental, because it comes back to knowing who your target guests are. We know where they're looking at, and we know our dollars are going into our Chamber of Commerces that are actively marketing our area. One of the ways that I've been able to do an additional step is get an exclusive contract with Villas of Distinction. So people can actually use their hotel and airplane reward points to book our vacation rentals through Villas of Distinction. And we have an exclusive contract for our areas. So what are some of the things that you guys do that is above and beyond that the average property manager just doesn't think about, or might think it's a waste of money, but you guys know it's really your secret tip? Anybody want to share? Or Rebecca, if you know of some things that some of the folks you've interviewed for the 100 collection, what they do?
It's just painfully obvious that they've put some of their properties in the collection. So yeah, I mean, I was going to say earlier with the homeowner thing, like it's a two-way street, right? They're working to manage these properties, promote these properties, and then going above and beyond that to curate these properties is something that not every property manager is going to do, right? And acknowledge what, you know, those property owners have done, you know, in reciprocal to their management efforts. This is a really fragile relationship, you know, with the property owner, and to master the hospitality, not just around the guest, but around the property management, care, and communication. That is something that when it's done well, when the details are taken care of, that definitely puts you into that elite status. It seems like the folks who are really separating themselves are, like I said, they're joining that kind of bigger alliance. They're being featured in the media, industry media, and otherwise. They're all over Instagram. If you look at their hashtags, if you follow them, you can see all the guests, you know, giving everybody else FOMO while they're at these locations. That's a job well done, because you really, you know, made them and the property owner feel fantastic.
Well, and just like you said, Tyann, like you can throw up a website, but you know, how often are you going through it tab by tab to make sure that you're maximizing every bit of that marketing space? Or you can have a social media account, but if you're not really active and engaging, I mean, I think Rebecca was mentioning, like social media is where the game is kind of being played for a huge part of our demographic now. And leveraging that, like I'm honestly surprised often how many times we're actually converting into bookings through an Instagram page, because that really was just kind of fluffy stuff a couple of years ago, and now it's like it's an actual like channel distribution strategy, you know. So being willing to do that, we have partnered you know, with Akia as our text messaging platform, have loved our relationship with them, fabulous company, and you know, we're starting to do a little bit more of our marketing campaigns through texting, because we're finding that, you know, people are just on their phones more than they're on their emails specifically. And so that seems like it's been a successful thing that we're playing with now for sure.
That is really cool. Because you're right. I mean, what is the stat? 95% of people open text, and emails is a smidgen of that. Jeff, what else do you have?
Yeah, one of the areas that we decided to invest in was, everybody can build a website, list their properties, provide some general information. We decided to try to flip it around and get people excited. So almost like a destination marketing site. And if we get them excited about coming to our location, and if we give them enough ideas that they want to have a longer stay at our place or want to come back, that'll excite them. So we invested in a ton of video content. I think we shot about 100 videos of things to do, activities. Again, some of the free ones that are kind of fun, so it doesn't have to all be expensive, and some of the ones that can cost you a fair bit, like rounds of golf and helicopter tours and things like that. Then we actually created kind of a Netflix style portal so that we could blend in, that you could experience the houses, you could experience the communities, you could see the land activities, the water activities, and do that, and kind of creating all that. Then in all our other marketing, whether it be email campaigns, our digital guides, everything just was simple. It just flowed through. So when we turned up our digital guides, within 2 weeks, we were able to have literally 100 plus videos on things to do in there. And that for us helps, because the average length of stay is going up. We're getting more repeats. And then people that start asking us, okay, this is an amazing experience on the island we're on. What if I go to a different island? Who should I talk to? Oh, I can't come to Hawaii this summer, but we're going somewhere into the mountains on the East Coast, and maybe in the Appalachians or something, where would I go and stay? And who do you know? And that's what Rebecca and Travis have started. We are so excited with the 100 collection because it knows that we can reliably refer people to people that we don't necessarily even know, but we know that with Rebecca and Travis, what they've done, they're going to have a similar experience.
I think that's a really good point, because people know, they're spoiled. Okay, we're just gonna say it. They're spoiled by the service that you guys provide and the elite players out there, that the service and the experience that these guests have, and they want more. And like you said, Jeff, they don't always want to come back to that same location. They do want to experience it elsewhere. And they ask you, it's like, okay, where can we find another Jeff, but I want to go to the mountains? Where can I find another Cheyenne, but I want to go up into the Pacific Northwest or over to the down East Maine? And that's where Rebecca comes in. And you're able to put that together for folks. Tell us real briefly, Rebecca, a little bit more about the 100 collection and how you tie that all together so that guests can find more elite players in our area.
Sure. Thanks for asking. So yeah, what we've done is we've found folks like Jeff and Cheyenne who are doing these amazing jobs in these locations and really truly nailing it 100%. That's the 100 collection, is 100% of the experience that you're hoping to have when you stay there. They want to find that, like you said, in other places. Like I mentioned, the demographics are shifting in terms of how much they travel. And so with being able to work from anywhere in some cases, they're just going to travel more and they want to have that consistency of experience. What we're trying to do is elevate the brand so that the brand doesn't get lost in an OTA experience, so that everybody knows Jeff's brand. Everybody knows Red Rock, Cheyenne's brand. Like they know the brand and they can refer the brand out. And they associate that brand, with being part of a collection that is consistent with those luxury services across the board, no matter where you're staying. And we all know life is life and things can go wrong. And you want to stay with somebody who is just on their game and they're proactive. So no matter, where you're going to stay, you're going to get that quality of experience. And that's what these brands offer in these specific destinations. So it's like you said, it's not just about, we're located in this area. It's like, I love where I live. I want you to love this area when you come here. And that really conveys with what they're doing. And so we're featuring that in 100 collection.
Wonderful. Thank you. So this actually leads into our next question, because I do see the 100 collection as not just a curated properties, but it's a tool that folks can use. So I want to know about the other tools that Cheyenne and Jeff, that you use, the software, processes, strategies that you have seen, that you use, or you've seen other folks use to run the more productive operations, deliver those better guest experiences, and then retain the happier and more hospitable teams. Because we've talked about how important teams are as well. Jeff, if you want to go ahead and go first, and then Cheyenne, and then if Rebecca, if you have some things to add to it as well, and I'll ask the question one more time because I know it was really, really long. So what tools, so software, processes, strategies, are you and other best players using to run more productive operations, deliver better guest experiences, and then retain happier and more hospitable teams?
Thank you. We come from a technology background, so it's kind of interesting that we say we need to figure things out, then apply the right technology. And so when we started with just a few homes, like most people started, and then you continue to grow and you pass over 100 homes and beyond, you really have to think about how you structure organizationally to deliver consistent operations. There's no way that anybody can keep 1,000 things in their head in terms of the things for all the homes and things like that. At the same time, you also can't have staff that work 7 days a week, 18 hours a day. So you have to look at the tools, but you have to look at how do you want to support things. And so one of the things we went through is, do we want to have, and we talked to so many different companies, do we want to have a decentralized model where we have teams that cover maybe 24 homes for each team, a property manager lead, and they kind of arrange all the preventative maintenance and do it with all the reactive kind of guest support issues and things like that? Or do we do a little bit more of a centralized model where everyone can be roughly familiar with all the homes, and that we centralize and have a central logistics team that kind of deals with things? So getting your operations model will vary. It'll vary. In our neck of the woods, we're in a very tight geographic area. All our homes are within about 10 miles of each other. All our guests are fly to. They fly in, and a lot of them take red eyes out wanting late checkouts. So we have issues that guests don't want to leave, guests don't want to arrive early. I'm sure everyone has that. But there are other markets where people may be in multiple cities. They may be in urban versus resort. You really have to kind of think through that. Once you find a structure you think will work for you, and it may change as you grow, because that's one of the things is adaptive to how we support is really important, because it's totally different now versus where we were 4 years ago. So once you figure that out, you kind of look at some of the tools in terms of how is it going to facilitate good team communication. So for us, with our centralized model, we have a core team of logistics, kind of like air traffic control, dealing with both reactive and proactive things, and coordinating our stagers and inspectors, our property care maintenance people, all those things in the field. So really core of keeping track of thousands of work orders is a good software. And some of the PMSs have this capability. There are other best of breed. We use Breezeway, and that's absolutely wonderful for keeping track of everything. And it's really important because often the lower priority things, I think somebody mentioned, an owner arrives and the one thing that didn't get done after you did 17 things, it's really important to track all those things to make sure things don't fall by the wayside. So Breezeway for us is really critical. But in the real-time communications, as a guest is going, can I check in early? And knowing what's the status of the clean, how's it going along? Was it late clean, heavy clean? So we can get back to the guest with something a little bit different than, nope, check-in time's 3 p.m. We can say, yeah, we think we can do it a little bit earlier. We'll be back in touch with you and we'll give you a call in another hour. Slack is just absolutely critical to us, and having different Slack channels for different things, whether it be maintenance, daily, housekeeping, even a smile to keep everyone kind of motivated. So we have a daily smile Slack channel. The other thing that's maybe a little bit more unique that I'm not sure that a lot of people are doing is we carry a lot of inventory. We're in a market where it's an hour drive to the store to go pick things up. So if a coffee pot breaks, you don't want to have to drive an hour each way to go buy a new coffee pot. So we keep a lot of inventory, and inventory management is really tough. I think we carry over $100,000 in inventory for various things. So we went to a software called Sortly, where we actually QR code sticker everything, because not only the things that are replacement items and the things that we have in stock so that we don't have supply chain issues of returning a brand new home, because we equip all our homes with almost the same things in terms of kitchens that are Paradise and Hawaii Kitchen has all the same items. Just keep track of that, avoiding loss. One of my most feared things with an owner is the words, "Where is my package?" Because they ship things to us and they expect it's just going to end up in their home or their owner closet or whatever. And so we kind of had to become like a little mini FedEx. Something comes in through our mailroom in our offices, and got to get a QR code sticker on that. And then when it goes into a company van, it's got to get scanned. And when it goes into the house, it's got to get scanned. Otherwise, everyone's kind of finger pointing, going, "Did you deal with that package? Oh, no, I thought you did." And then all of a sudden it's gone, and we're buying a replacement item for an owner. So from operations, 3 things: Breezeway, Slack for real time, and Sortly. And we're hoping that Sortly gets that kind of capability, gets built into either a PMS or Breezeway down the time with the actual QR code. So we keep feeding that to them.
Very cool. I had never heard of Sortly before. I know we are definitely not big enough for that type of operations, but that is really cool to know about as we grow. Maybe one day we will. And I bet there's other folks watching the webinar right now, writing that down and looking it up, because that is very, very cool. Cheyenne, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, definitely having a solid tech stack is super important. We use Track, been super happy with them. We use Resort Cleaning to kind of house our housekeeping stuff. And like I said already, we use Akia for a lot of our guest correspondence. All 3 of them work really well together. And all of them are super, super important, and empowers each of our departments to be able to get information from other departments without actually, bothering those department heads. They can just get in the software and check things, which is super important, and to keep things moving smoothly. I will say that I think the best thing that Red Rock does is just invest in its people, and especially the customer service side of things, because, sometimes owners or guests bring stuff to our attention, and we immediately know, like, ooh, we got a bit of a mess on our hands. But if your team is trained to just like Rebecca said, handle that grace under pressure and just have it look all like, oh, we got this, we'll get you taken care of. And then behind the scenes, scramble to make happen whatever needs to happen. The owners of our company, there's 3 founders from 12 years ago, and they all live locally and are daily invested in the company still. And one of the things that Adam Legg always says is his best strategy has been to hire great people and get out of the way. And that's been completely true at my experience of Red Rock, of they just hire fantastic people and then give them the autonomy to innovate and create and problem solve and figure out what they need. And that's been just a huge, huge blessing to feel like we can bring so many different minds from so many different backgrounds to the table at Red Rock, and that everybody feels safe and has the ability to kind of figure out how can we do things better. So I feel like our secret sauce at Red Rock has just a lot to do with our team and our people, and the way the owners and Ryan as the director of the company just takes care of the team relentlessly, because ultimately we want people waking up every morning excited to come to work. And like, we all experience times where maybe we don't feel that fire quite as much, but we kind of want to keep people in that headspace, because when they're there, like, our owners and guests are going to feel the difference of that we genuinely are looking forward to hearing from them. We genuinely care about their experience. And even that person that calls at 4:59 on a Friday gets the same warm welcome and how can we help you? So company culture, I think, is just, as far as like strategies, like investing in your team just goes so far with everything else that you're hoping to do with a company.
That is fantastic. The one thing I want to add with the team, one of the things operationally, a tool that we use, actually use Touch Day digital guidebooks for our team. I know everybody knows the digital guidebooks for the guest experience part traditionally, but we actually use the guides to create a quick reference guide for our team, so that each of them has their own link, and then it's broken down into the different sections of what to do if a guest asks question XYZ, and here's the answer. What to do if there's a leak, and here's the list of plumbers that works on that house. So all those little quick reference things go into it, and they have it on their phone. They can tap it, do a quick search for what they need, and then all the information is right there for them right away. So it helps them to think quickly on their feet, and it helps them to speak in our brand voice, so that it's a good, seamless experience, no matter which team member is helping the guest and giving that hospitality to them. Rebecca, is there anything else that you wanted to add that you have seen?
Yeah, I would say pretty consistently across the 100 collection, we've seen the use of 3 different tools fairly well. One would be content. Maybe people don't think of that as a tool, but it is. Like you mentioned, the Touch Stay guides, that content that you create, that you own, that you distribute, that is a tool. And a lot of the elite players use their content, invest in their content very wisely. Another tool is partners or partnerships. I think that one is actually going to be the biggest tool in 2023. So think about the partners and partnerships that you have, and think of it in an out of the box kind of way. You know what I mean? Be creative with your partnerships this year. And then tech stack, obviously very strong tool that gets leveraged pretty well across all of our partners. They've put together a really thoughtful tech stack after some trial and error usually, but they look to their peers for information as they put those together. So yeah, I would say those are the 3 biggest tools that I see consistently used wisely across the 100 collection.
So going off of the tech, so Rebecca, I'm going to start with you with this question. What is the role of tech in adding value and without impacting margins? So basically, how can the investment in tech add value for guests and deepen, instead of add, I want to deepen a PM's margins?
So I think Jeff actually gave a really good example of this, where he's like, you figure out the situation first, and then you figure out what tech is relevant for that situation. It's not the reverse. Like, don't go and look at all the tech that's available and see how you can shoehorn it into your situation. Start with what your situation is, and then see what tech would be the best fit. What we're seeing right now is that there are some puzzle pieces that don't fit perfectly together. And so people kind of have to double up sometimes with their tech. They don't really need both pieces of software, but one does something, the other doesn't. The puzzle piece doesn't fit exactly right. I think there will be some consolidation later this year to figure that out, but I would say that figuring out your situation first and then looking at the tech that's available to help solve it, talking to peers that are in a similar situation and seeing what worked or didn't work for them. That would be my suggestion to answer that question.
Jeff and Cheyenne, do either of you have additional thoughts on this?
An example.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's going to be interesting to see how AI evolves within our industry for sure. I mean, I think the biggest thing about tech is just creating more efficiencies with our teams. I mean, we all know we get asked the same question 17 times a day, and finding a way, as much as I would love some of my guest servicing team to spend 20 minutes on the phone with one guest, like learning all about their family reunion and hanging out with grandma and really showing that care, that 20 minutes, like how many guests are not being served, and so the opportunity through some of these different softwares and the ability to respond to guests faster, but still personably, just like you were mentioning, Tyann, we have a similar thing where we've shot operational videos on anything that might be tricky in a home, whether it's a hot tub use or turning on the fire pit or anything like that. And we just have links in a database for anybody on our team to quickly send the link to with the YouTube video of our team demonstrating how to do it to any of our guests. And that used to take maybe 15, 20 minutes and a few phone calls to figure out. But now we've just shot the video and we just shoot it off and away we go. So, I mean, I think tech is super important to create efficiencies and then finding a way to do that while we're still having that customer service. I get texts all the time that I can see are automated and I often just don't even read them. Just flat out don't read them. So finding a way to create those automated texts that still feel personable, I think is super important. But I don't think that, I mean, we've gone, from 100 properties to 300 properties in a pretty short period of time. And so that means we have, we're fully booked this weekend. So I have 300 units booked, but I also have 300 units that are potentially being shopped for dates ahead of now. That's a huge absolute value of incoming correspondence. So anything we can do to streamline those correspondences with our guests and owners, but also keep it really personal is just super important.
The comment about AI, it's a really interesting thing that I think a lot of us are trying to figure out how to use in our businesses. So I'm sure we've all played with Chat GPT and said, in this scenario, what would it say in terms of a customer problem, in terms of how to answer them, give us some stuff. And some of us go, wow, that has a little less of an edge and a little less defensive. It's kind of interesting. Our concern is, does it become too much of a crutch in the years ahead? And because it's probably not going to have the ability to think about what is the guest really trying to say. And maybe what they're saying on the surface is something's bothering them, but maybe there's something else that's actually at the root. And so one of the challenges, it's very difficult to teach staff, is that deep thinking skill of what's really going on, what they're really asking for. So that just on the AI, I'm fascinated by it, as I'm sure many are, and how it will come into our business and how it can be positive. But we definitely want to make sure that we doesn't become that crutch. If I can switch gears, is a little bit of an example. So, because the idea was, how can tech add value and actually, without impacting our margins, or actually improving our margins? So we've been through a bunch of different digital guides and tablets and things like that. And we implemented Touch Day as the example of one. And we did that in December after it had been on many platforms. And we kind of wanted three goals. One was we wanted to take all this content we provided and make sure it got in the hands. So the things to do, how the things that they didn't get to do this trip, they'll want to come back for, right? And just really exciting things are going to drive rebookings, which will drive revenue. So that will help profitability margins. Because if we get a guest as a repeat, they're always less costly than a guest that's a brand new one. The second is, how do we use these things to reduce the number of calls, the number of texts to a guest ambassador team, guest support team? And so one of the premises we go through is, if our team ever gets asked something more than once, the question is there a video for it? Has somebody made a video? If people are having problems, how do I turn on the spa hot tub? And they're repeating, and we get this problem call twice in a quarter. It's get somebody down there, make a video on the next turn, and get that up there. So we're adding weekly more and more videos. And then the guests are not calling as much. And if they do call, we can point them to a video rather than having to wait an hour or a half hour or whatever for a property care person to get out to help them. So that's helping reduce the number of calls, the number of texts, the number of dispatch for our operations team by making the simple investment in the video and getting our team engaged in it. So there's a variety of different people, makes it kind of fun as well. And then the new feature that was rolled out that we said, hey, we really want this feature before we'll change, was that first impressions feature. So knowing about a problem, if somebody walks in the door and they have a problem, rather than let it fester for 2 or 3 days, and then it becomes a really big problem that affects your guest reviews, affects, and always, if it festers, it means that you have more people dealing with it, both in the office as well as going onto the property. If we can get that and find out about that sooner, that's going to reduce our cost. Hopefully we can avoid those problems in the first place and learn from them. But by using that technology, it creates more intimate discussions and better support for our guests. So I think that's an example of technology. It's going to help improve our margins, and we're already seeing that.
Absolutely. My next question was about human touch and tech. And I think you guys have already answered that as well with your answers to the last questions. And, Jeff, with using video and using a variety of people from your team and bringing the different voices and characters into it, and you're having that human voice that's answering their questions before the guests even ask them. And to me, it also shows, we talk a lot about reducing the number of guest questions. And then some folks say, well, don't we want guest questions? Don't we want them to interact with us? It's like, yes, we do. But to me, also, this shows, you making the videos and knowing they're going to ask, they possibly could ask this question, you're answering it, you're showing that you care for them, that you've prepared for them, that you are welcoming them, and you've spent that time, that quality time to create this, the acts of service to create this. And to me, it's also a physical touch because they're hearing the voice of the person who's created this video. So hitting those love languages is what I was getting at for that. So we have gotten to our 1 hour. If there's any other questions that folks have, drop them into the Q&A. I see there's 2 of them in here. We'll answer them really quick, but if anyone else has any other questions, this is your time to get it in there. So Bill has asked, what is your preferred vacation rental system? I'm going to guess he's probably means your preferred PMS, property management software. So Cheyenne and Jeff, what is it that you guys use? Mine that I use is owner reservations.
We use Track. We've been with Track for the last couple of years, and they just continue to innovate on their product, and we've been super happy with them and feel great about the team that's over there. And so we're with Track.
Awesome. Jeff?
We use Streamline, and again, we're very, very happy with them.
Excellent. Okay. And then we've got, Senta has asked, management company recommends against providing certain amenities such as kayaks and exercise equipment due to liability risk. Is that something you consider when you include certain items? I know we've talked about e-bikes, we've talked about kids' bikes, we've talked about golf carts. Cheyenne and Jeff, what is it that you guys have come across with insurance and liability risks?
So our guest rental agreement kind of covers anything that would happen in the property or anything associated with the property. So as far as guest liability, no concern there. We do draw the line on the golf carts and the e-bikes, more that the owners can offer them. But we that's just not covered on the guest damage part of what we do. We just don't have the right servicing to be able to handle that quickly. We don't have the manpower to handle those quickly. So it's kind of a offer it at your own risk. And we talk to the owners about making an educated decision about, if somebody's booked your property, assuming some high-end items like that, and now it's broken and isn't going to be able to be repaired quickly. Now you're looking at discounting potentially rent. And, sometimes that good old fashioned bicycle is just as great and less concerned. So but generally speaking, we encourage people to do what they want to do and offer what they want to offer, just a few parameters around it.
Great. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, we try to provide things that are less likely to get the guests in trouble themselves. So most guests are familiar how to ride a bike, provide helmets. Cheyenne's point, you got to make sure they're well maintained. If they show up and the tires are all flat or the brakes don't work, you're asking for it. So those are the kinds of things are fairly safe. snorkel gear, boogie boards. Again, they all have inherent risks, and insurance will help, and waivers and disclaimers on your contracts help. But then there's areas where most people have never surfed. So if we were to provide surfboards, there'd probably be a lot more bigger accidents if people take those surfboards. Would they strap them to the roof of the vehicle correctly, and end up having an accident that way, if not an accident actually out on a reef? So things like that, there's places that rent them. So we just direct people to rent them and let them take the liability. Golf carts are wonderful in resort communities that allow them. The biggest issue is just people drinking or minors, and we see it all the time. So again, we partner with other companies that will provide that. It's just not a risk that we want to take. We don't want a 10-year-old driving a golf cart and somebody gets really hurt if you're on a private road. So again, every business, you really have to just assess what is the risk factor and how do you create some things that are great, like cornhole and big Connect Four games and things that like bikes and stuff that you do normally. And some of those things that would be really, really neat, but they're just too much inherent risk. Leave it for others and find partners.
Yeah.
And that's I was going to say that's kind of our job, to educate our owners on like what actually drives conversion, like, or versus what's just kind of a trophy wife. Like, yeah, it sounds great to have that, but really nobody's going to book that over something else because of that item. So just helping them make educated decisions about what they're going to put in their home and set realistic expectations of how we are going to be able to manage that item for them.
Absolutely. And one of the rules that we go by too is if you have a question about it and you're not sure, just ask your insurance company, give them a call. We put in a big twisty slide from the top deck down to the bottom patio of one of our houses. And a lot of people look at it as like, oh my gosh, what about the liability, the risk? It's like, well, we looked at that and we actually sent the plans to our insurance company, had them pre-approved before we even ordered it and spent that amount of money on it, and made sure it was commercially rated. It's got like 1,000 pounds per square inch so that adults can go down it as well. And then we put at the bottom on the concrete some drop pads that are rated at a 6-foot drop that you would find in a commercial playground. So making sure we're taking those steps to reduce the risk completely, and that our insurance company is okay with it too. So, whatever amenities you want to look at, absolutely be aware of your risks, talk to your insurance company, see what's allowed and not allowed, and then make your decision from there for you. That is all our questions. And does anyone have any last little bits of wisdom that you want to share before we close out the webinar?
I don't know if it's wisdom as much as I just think we're part of such a phenomenal industry. It's amazing how many people are passionate about what we do. And I think that networking and connecting, for example, Rebecca and the 100 Connection, just helping to get people connected across the country that are committed and passionate about what we do. And I just think that's such an awesome thing. And if you are wanting to learn more or get more educated about anything about the vacation rental industry and management of it, there's tools and so many people willing to help, which I think is really awesome. It's exciting to be a part of that kind of community.
Yeah, I mean, Travis and I are lucky to be vetting these vacation rentals across the country. And getting to meet folks like this and seeing some amazing properties. So yeah, you really get that sense that we're just lucky to be here.
This industry from past, we were in industries that you would never share. The sharing is amazing. If you don't have connections, it can be in your market because competitors share. It's surprising. Find out other markets, go to the conferences, just make a few friends, and it's unbelievable how much it'll help your business.
Absolutely. I think, so many of us were in that abundance mindset that, it's abundant out there and you share. And then it, as the saying goes, rising tides lift all boats. So thank you all so much for joining this conversation with us. And I so appreciate Jeff, Cheyenne, and Rebecca for sharing so much of what you do and how you see your business and the guest experience and how you are an elite player. Folks, you can find and stalk these folks online. Like they said, they're elite players, they're online, they're in socials, and you can learn from them and see what they're doing. So we have Jeff and Cheyenne. Jeff is Paradise in Hawaii. Cheyenne is Red Rock Vacation Rentals. Rebecca is the 100 Collection. And of course, you can find me at Touch Stay and then also Branson Family Retreats and Missouri House. And thanks so much. We'll talk to you guys all soon.
Thanks.